issue on the 25 Power Women to Watch. And we had over 800 nominees. It was kind of overwhelming to go through all this story. And there was a woman who really stood out to me. I loved her so much because I could see she had a story. She was original. And her name was Stacy Petty. And so she was one of my top picks. I just fell in love with her. I followed her through all through. She was, when I got to interview her, she was so real. She had a relatable story. And I think sometimes we don't realize how just being with women can change that. And I'm so proud of her. She's lost the motion due to pleasure. She puts that story and she puts it nationally and she uses it for the good of other people. She's just over time, I've noticed I saw a study in the Harvard Business Review a few years ago. And what they talked about was they did an enormous survey of leaders in all fields about what was the characteristic that you admire the most and why. What the number one thing, what they think. Tell me what you think the number one characteristic that the best leaders in history have in common.
They can speak in public.
Empathy.
Yes.
By telling our stories, that's how we can all come together. When we hear and are willing to listen to other people and establish empathy, that's where we come together. Being vulnerable and being willing to share the hurts, the trials, our pain. That's why people respond to Stacy, because she's a real person and she puts the needs of others before her own. And I in my entire career, I've had the opportunity to interview stars in their field. And every one of the people who have made it in the top with integrity are those kind of people. They're empathetic, they care about others. And those are the people who can really move others. The book that I'm the most proud of that was the project of my heart is a book called Orange Duffel Bag. A few of you guys heard me talk about it yesterday a little bit. And that book, it was really hard to get that book done. And I think sometimes, especially as women, we can feel suppressed in telling our stories because people we get rejections from magazines, rejections from publishers. It's hard. Our field is hard. Anytime you're putting your heart out there, it's hard. That book went through 75 rejections. And Sam, the guy that I wrote the story I told in that book, Sam and I finally decided we're just going to self-publish it because we were sick of getting told no. It was the first time in my career my literary agent couldn't sell a book for me. And so we did. We self-published it. We sold 12,000 copies in the first 6 months. And then the third agent came along and said she thought she could sell it. And she did. But more importantly, the reason we were so driven is because we wanted to start this nonprofit. And our nonprofit has now It's called the Orange Duffel Bag Initiative, and our dream was to make the orange duffel bag a symbol of hope, just like the pink ribbon is for breast cancer. We aren't there yet because even though we're 12 years old, it's tough running a nonprofit. But through empathy, through Sam's courage of sharing the raw, the hard stuff that he went through as a child, and then furthermore, even when he was homeless, and then as a 15-year-old, and then got to Georgia Tech, came to Atlanta with everything he owned in an orange duffel bag. Because he was vulnerable, he has saved countless lives. Because I can tell you, we've gotten letters and emails from children, young people. We work with teens and young people up to the age 24. It's actually, once you're part of our family, you're with us. And so we have kids that I still am in touch with, one of my girls who's about to turn 30. That vulnerability, being real in writing and being willing to just lay it all out there for people, you can literally transform lives. So anyway, that's all I got to say. I know I'm here, but it's powerful and you. I just appreciate your courage in telling your stories.
About the paper. I'm not sure. I am Nola Nash. I'm an author, podcaster, tattooed free spirit with a backbone of steel that was forged in the fires of hell. But I wasn't honest. 3 years ago, I was terrified of the monster I shared a bed with. Over the course of 14 years, my life evolved into an existence that encompassed only two things: survive, so I could protect my children, and do whatever it took to make sure no one knew what was happening to us. There was no purpose beyond that. There are many reasons why I went and stayed in situations like that, and I won't give you those. I won't tell you the sordid details about what he did to us. I will tell you that if I wrote those years as a screenplay, no one would pick it up, because all of that just doesn't happen to one family. Yes, it does. But today isn't about that. It isn't about him. It's not about the FBI raid and how I never expected salvation to come in the form of 20 flak-jacketed and armed special agents. It's not about the only good thing he ever did for us, which was choosing suicide over federal prison. He wouldn't have lasted long there anyway. Even hardened criminals take offense to the things that he was being put away for. Vigilante justice would have been swift. But today is about reclamation. Sanity was a tenuous thing for me in those years. My world was so far out of control that the chaos had become to seem normal. I desperately needed something to hold on to, an anchor in a churning sea. So I wrote. On those pages, there was no judgment as I exacted my revenge through the characters of the story. There were no gasps of shock as I poured my rage into the villain and fear into the protagonist. Every word, indeed every dot of every I, was there because I wanted it to be. I was in complete control. Inside my manuscript, I hid. Inside my manuscript, I played the role of the God that I had long since lost faith in. Inside my manuscript, I was safe. Inside my manuscript, I was Nola Nash. The day he died was the day the woman that I was died with him. Not like some Romeo and Juliet thing. All that woman knew was surviving life with him. Without him, there was nothing. A sort of surreal limbo, a life unlived. When he died, so did the words. For years, writing was my escape. Now I had nothing to escape from. Writing represented fear that I didn't want to revisit, but it was such a part of me that it left a gaping hole. A year later, I finally spiraled into a dark enough place that it scared even me, much less those around me. I couldn't outrun the need for therapy anymore. I had to do it by choice or by force, but I was going to do it. And it was hard. So very hard. So was letting others inside the walls that I had so fiercely protected for so long. Others who only wanted to love and support me. But something happened as I rediscovered who I was and filled the shell of the woman that I had been. Words came. Like a torrent, they came. Nola Nash had things to say, stories to tell, and they saved her life. I began to see the manuscript not as a hiding place that I didn't want to return to, but as the one place I had always been able to be everything that I truly was. I began to devour knowledge of the publishing industry. I grew in my experience as my network of authors and readers grew. Confidence in my abilities began to surface and steal itself, so much so that I even took back my book rights from a publisher that I knew wasn't doing right by me. I began to value myself and put that woman first for change. 3 years ago, I was Casey Hopkins, who pretended to be Nola Nash, the pen name of the confident writer of historical horror and magic. Nola Nash was all mine, derived from where I came from and where I am. She's my own creation. Her words were mine. He never read a single one. All mine. In October of 2019, I legally became Nola Nash. Changing a name was a drastic step, and it might not be the usual way to reclaim life after abuse, but for me, it was worth it. A rebirth, a chance to find myself and get to know who Nola Nash is. I'm still getting to know her. But so far, she's loving, fun, capable, stronger than she gives herself credit for, and one hell of a storyteller. Now, 4 novels, 3 years, and 2 podcasts later, I am a survivor. I am Nola Nash.
Nola, thank you for sharing the story. I mean, I knew you were going to be a special guest, and I was like, okay. Wow, I'm so glad you were a special speaker. And now it's time to call Tanya back up to start those words.
Yeah, that was very powerful. And we had 3 amazing speakers up here, and I hope what you're hearing is it's important to dream. It's important to have empathy, and that there's so much power in surviving through writing, fighting through writing. We're here to celebrate literature and writers, and I would like Winona to come up. Where did she disappear to?
Winona, Winona disappears. Jade will be that. Yes.
Jade will come up and talk about what these awards are, and then we'll bring the speakers up to start presenting them.
But truly, Winona should be given the speech because and everything in the end I thought is always Winona's dream. She is a big dream. And she turned to me 6 years ago. She said, "Why are there so many wonderful women out here and nobody's giving them a award?" I said, "I don't know. We're gonna give them an award. We're gonna do it." And I said, "Well, don't get crazy." And then she was like, "But we are, Jay." And I was like, "Well, I guess we gotta get to plan." So here we are, 6 years later, with the Inspirational Women in Literature, Media, and Journalism Awards. And I'm just so honored to be in the room with all of you. Because if you haven't been awarded before, it's long overdue. And if you have been awarded before, it's still long overdue. You get another award. So with all of that, Winona should be here. She'll have something flowery.
Oh, stop. There's nothing regular. So our first award presenter presenting the award for Inspirational Supporter this year is Gigi Bryant. She's a Hall of Fame winner and the chair of Right to Me Foundation. Gigi, please come up.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. So I have the honor to introduce and award Idris Balu. So I'll tell you a little bit about him before we get started. First of all, the reason he's getting the Inspirational Supporter Award is he has made a point of making sure that women producers and writers are part of his films that he's a part of. So he's a part of making sure that women have the platform for movies and producing in Hollywood, something we all know is long overdue. Idris is an actor. He has appeared in TV series, including Aquafina is Nora from Queens with Aquafina and Power. And he was in Power with 50 Cent. He played Piper in the BBC sitcom Happy Hour and will star in the upcoming thriller film The Dead Place. It is my honor to present this award of Inspirational Supporter to Idris Balu. Before he comes up, I also want to tell you that if you want to follow him and keep track of what he's doing and pay attention to the phenomenal women that he surrounds himself with, he is the magazine, Media Magazine. He's in Envy Weekly. Instagram is Idris Balu, his name. His Facebook is the same, Idris Balu, his name. And his boarding is Nora Collection Space Men's Swim. In fact, we get to see him in a swimsuit is what I'm getting ready to tell you. So pay close attention when he comes up here, what we're going to see. Party working. And he is also in a global face commercial. They'll be doing a face cream to make sure he stays young and gorgeous. So, Idris, if you would join, please.
Yeah, we have a little glow box so we can be special.
Oh, wow. So I am honored to present this award to you. Thank you for what you're doing for women in Hollywood producers. Thank you for the career that you're going to have, and I'm especially honored to be a part of your introduction. I'll go on to this.
Thank you, everyone. I do have a speech as well. I can't go on the top of my head. First off, I wanted to thank the conference for this award. Of course, thank you, everyone. To be honest, I never really looked at myself as a woman supporter. Never really occurred to me, even though I have been surrounded by such amazing women. And I know that I've been impacted by them as well. Most people in my generation would describe the woman who impacted them in literature specifically as saying that they influenced them in a specific way, which is more of a passive, patronizing way of saying. However, the words that I would use or I would choose to describe the women in my life are different from those that my generation would choose. The words to describe the woman in my life, specifically my mother, right there, are courageous, valiant, brave, and fearless. Most may ask themselves, why do I use these words to describe my mother? The answer is simple. I literally would not be here without her today. And the woman in her life that helped her as well. The stories she has shared with me over time about the woman who impacted her has helped shape who I am today. See, my mother's battle started long before I was born. One of those stories is when she was pregnant with me and when my father was found to be here illegally. Since his date of deportation had been after my due date, or her due date with me, she decided to have me early. This was a risky delivery, and the doctor ordered her on bed rest. What they did not know, and what no one knew, was she had a brave decision to make. Stay here and raise me, or travel into the unknown. She bravely and courageously chose the unknown. On the day she left, she was all alone and had to decide how to fit her whole life into 2 bags. She headed to the airport struggling with a 2-year-old, 2 bags, and newborn. During the flight, my sister had to use the bathroom. Unfortunately, the bathroom could not fit all of us. Once again, my mother was faced with a choice. She could not fit us all in the bathroom, but there was this lady, perfectly fine lady, of sitting next to her that offered to help her, offered to carry me while she left. My mother had a choice: either tell my sister to wait and hold it until Albania, or give me to this perfectly fine lady. Luckily for my sister, she chose the lady, and she didn't have to hold it. But see, I often think about that lady on the plane who saw this courageous woman struggling on her journey and decided to offer help. That scene of 2 women on a plane who never met and will probably never meet again, supporting one another in that limited time span, inspires me and teaches me to help others. From my mom's stories, I've learned these morals. This conference's members are full of women who have unique individual stories to tell. You have written them, shared them, and handed them down from generation to generation. So those stories will live beyond all our years. Much like my mother's story, the stories you write about us teach us how women are courageous, valiant, fearless, and brave. Please keep teaching us and sharing your stories and knowledge with my generation, as we are all not lost. Some of us are still listening and reading them. I want to thank all of you for this award, as it means so much for me. I'd like to share it with my mother. Thank you.
And I probably shouldn't have tried
Thank you for that, Idris. And I hope you all are hearing these wonderful lessons that we're getting from these speakers. Life is about choices.
Yes.
The choice to trust a kind stranger. The choice to be the kind stranger.
Yes.
I'm learning that lesson this weekend too. The second award, presenting the 2022 Inspirational Woman in Media Award, is Sean Kingston, owner of Seeds Productions and former president of the Atlanta Alliance Women's Directories. Please take the stage.
Hello, it is such an honor to be in this room with all of you, Winona and Jay. God bless you. So yes, I do have the pleasure of introducing Terry J. Bond. And I just have to share just a little bit of personal story that will give you a picture of this dynamic woman's heart. When I founded the Atlanta chapter of the Alliance Women Directors 5 years ago, the first order of business was to develop an advisory board. And the first name that came was Terry J. Bond. I was afraid because I had no reputation and no one knew my name but my husband and my children. And when I made the call, she said yes. So not only is she a powerhouse as an actor, producer, and director, she is also a mentor and a woman in this industry of influence. We all know Terry Bond as the lovable Levita Jenkins on the Steve Harvey Show, but she has evolved beyond acting as well. Even though she has received 2 Webby Awards, HBO and Issa Rae brought Terry back as Rose Cranberry for another spinoff. We Stay Looking, which also won a 2022 Webby for Best Scripted Fiction Podcast. Terry has been honored with 3 NAACP Image Awards for her work on the Steve Harvey Show. And as a director, Terry's latest project, Unthinkably Good Things, filmed in Rome, Italy, and is slated to launch Crown Media's Hallmark Mahogany brand in August of 2022. She also just wrapped on an episode of Disney's Bumped. Another notable project directed by Terry is her first episodic episode of BET's Tales. So she is directing, As a producer, Terry has produced over 16 projects under her independent production company, Nina Holiday Entertainment, with her producing partner, Cass Seegers Beatles. Terry produced and starred in television's highly rated Girlfriends Getaway and its sequel, Girlfriends Getaway 2. And this is a very important part about Terry that I want everyone to know. Out of her desire to give back to her community, Terry founded Take Wings Foundation in 1997 in the San Francisco Bay Area to mentor young women growing up in risk communities and high-risk communities. Terry's passion is to uplift and motivate young women to believe in themselves. So please join me in welcoming Terry.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you guys for choosing to honor me, which is always very humbling. Gosh, these stories that we've been hearing today. So the biggest thing that's standing out for me is our connection. How we're all so connected. No matter what race, no matter where we're from, no matter if we're man or woman. Spiritually, God made it that way that we're supposed to be connected. And what's going on and chaotic in the world is because everything is trying to make us be separated. Everything, every time you turn on television, it's about separating us, about judging each other, about giving no grace to anyone. And as an artist, and all the artists, authors, actors, directors, producers, I feel like it's our job to heal that, to reverse that in any way that we can, which is why I've been in this business for so long. I feel like there's a meaning, there's a purpose, and I gotta keep going until that happens. And I love artists. I love us because we're so, God is a creator. He created all of us to create.
Yes.
And creating as mothers, we give birth to babies. It's like we're all creators in some kind of way, whether we're actual artists that get paid to create, or if we're just women and men creating some type of beauty in life. And so for me, more than talking about my accolades in the business, it's more about what we're using our purpose for. And today, just listening to everyone who spoke, I feel like I'm in the right room. Because it matters so much. It matters what we're doing. It matters what we're doing to each other. And it matters what we're doing to ourselves. And I want my kids, I want my 8-year-old daughter to have a world where she doesn't have to wake up every day where she knows she has to go out there and fight because of the way she looks. That makes no sense to me. So as we all continue to go on and write our stories and share our testimonies, I already know that the people in this room that that's what you do it for. You're not doing it because you want somebody to look at you like, hey, look at me, look what I've been through. It's more sharing because you want to help. You want to help somebody else heal. You want to help somebody make a better decision. You want to make tell someone that they're okay, that they're not crazy, that we all feel these things and go through these things and have ups and downs and feel insecure, feel stuck. Everyone does. We all do. And the more we connect and honor each other and give each other grace and just understand that just because you were born that way and I'm born this way, we're all born on this planet to cohabitate with each other. And that's where our strength and our power is. And, you know, and I have to say this specifically to women and then more specifically to Black women. We've been holding each other up from the beginning. We have to continue to do that. We have to heal. I think the power to heal the world is in our hands, women. Sorry. I just do. I think it's in our hands because we're not afraid to be vulnerable. We're not afraid to expose ourselves. And in that we are helping to heal the world. And hopefully men are watching and they too feel like, and I hear it from you, they too feel like it's okay to be vulnerable, to tell your story, to that, you know, nobody's life is perfect. We all have struggles and pains that we go through. And if we're open to share it and not act like, you know, I'm better than you or you're less than me, then we can make this place better. We just make this place better. And so just thank you for honoring me. Thank you for the recognition. And everyone have a beautiful
And all that you have done,
Yes.
and in all that you will continue to do.
Yes, I will. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your vulnerability, Terry. I know it isn't easy. And I think it's no accident that we have so many amazing storytellers in this room. We're seeing the power of storytelling. And one of the things you touched on is connection. So I encourage all of you, if there's someone in this room that you haven't had an opportunity to meet, don't be afraid. Just extend your hand, make that connection. Meet the people who have the same ideals that you have. Like, we're all here to celebrate and honor storytelling and women in literature. Just make sure it's not a wasted trip, because there are some phenomenal people in this room. You don't want to go home thinking, I can let this person know who I am or see what I can do to help support their cause. We are stronger together, and we can fight all of that negativity if we band together and stop fighting each other.
Absolutely.
Fight them, not us. You know? Would you like me to go to number 4? Okay. So our next presenter is Thomas, or I like to call Mr. Rochester. Well, it is a literary reference. He was in Isaiah Washington's Corsicana and director of the Toilet Paper Diaries. He's presenting the Inspirational Women in Literature Advocacy Award. Mr. Rochester, please.
Pressure, right? I'm gonna keep this brief. I think we've all had a lot of white men talk to us all throughout our lives, like telling us what to do, what not to do, tell the truth. You did it wrong. Thanks, Dad. Gigi Bryant. She's a beautiful soul born in Texas. Says she's driven by faith. That faith has guided her in community work, focusing on the family life. Issues close to her are expanding education, youth and foster care, and the one closest to my heart is alcohol and drug rehabilitation. She's a witness to the knowledge that education breeds dreams and opens opportunities that strengthen communities. My favorite thing that I've read about her so far is she has received awards from organizations that acknowledge her commitment to faith, children, community, and education, and that list was very, very long. And so it is, with that in mind, it's my honor to present this award to Gigi Bryant.
Well, first of all, thank you all so much. Thank you so much for this honor and award. I'm going to follow the precedents of the room And I want to thank you for making me cry. I was trying to hold on. So I'm going to work my hardest because my allergies, and I can't give it the Holly Berry cry, you know, the beautiful, ugly cry. So first of all, I want to talk about the room. This is the most intimate, sharing, caring opportunity that I've had in a very long time with people I don't know. So as I watched the different events last night and people share their stories, the energy in the room, the amazing stories, the love, the caring, the empathy, the sharing and what we can do next. I mean, there were best practices, what should we do here, what should we do there? It was something that I went to my hotel room last night and really reflected on. I want to thank these amazing women for finding the coolest people on the planet and putting them in a room together. So I want to applaud you for that. I want to thank God for being here. I feel like every day when I wake up, I thank God for what He protected me from that I was unaware of. I know what He sent me through. So if it was that hard, I can't even imagine what He protected me from in His promises. I grew up in the foster care system. I went in at 6 with my 4 siblings. I say 3.5 of us aged out. My brother went through the system, got lost, ended up being lost to the system. They don't come look for you, looking for you when you're gone. And he ended up crimes, mostly just because he was hungry and had nowhere to go, homeless, and actually ended up on Texas death row and was executed. And so one of the things he asked me to do was to come to his execution. And I said, sure, with no thought whatsoever. And I was able to visit with him 2 weeks before he was executed. And I listened to his story and the things that he talked about. And my heart just bled for him because I aged out at 17, pregnant and homeless, but I had my big mama, which is what I have my grandkids call me, Big Mama. And so my children were like, we're not going to call you Big Mama because you don't like a Big Mama. And I said, well, I'm not keeping you kids. And they said, okay, Big Mama. There's a way around everything. But what I listened to was his stories. He'd been on death row for 25 years. Jesus. Texas, they like to keep you around a long time before they. Absolutely. So he told me about his life and what he had done, the things he remembered about us and what we had done. And he asked me about my siblings, my sisters. And I told him, I said, well, they don't acknowledge you. I figured, of course, I'm the one with the t-shirt that says I'm saying what everybody's thinking. So I said, they don't acknowledge you, but it's their loss. They should get to know you and love you for who you are and the sacrifices that you feel you made for us so that we wouldn't end up in the situation that you were in. And so we talked a little bit more. And at his execution, I remember telling him, whatever you do, don't take your eyes off me because the next set of eyes that you see will be God's eyes. Wow. So focus on the brown ones. And when you get to heaven, they'll still be brown. The photos say they're blue, but they're not. You're still hot in Africa for blue eyes. So focus on me. And then the next set of eyes that you see will love you more. Wow. And so we did that. And my other siblings wrote stories, created stories about themselves, being single siblings, and just kind of wrote me out. And I was okay with that because you can't tell someone how to focus their trauma. Exactly. Trauma is real. And it comes out in everything that we do and say. It comes out in how we act. I worked really hard to love because I wanted to be loved. And so I spent a lot of time listening and understanding people, but I learned a very important skill set that if you don't agree with someone or you can't see their ideas and their opinion hurts you so much, walk away. It's always an option because the thing they will remember and that you will remember is that you took the footpath and not the fist path. And so therefore, you can always be seen further down the road as a person that they don't know that much about you, but they remember how nice you were just as you walked away, right? So I tell my kids, you don't have to fight every battle, but be aware of the ones that are coming to you. You don't have to internalize everything, but sometimes just let things roll over. So the thing that takes me most in my life and for this award is that I've never written a book, because every time I start, I got the records from the foster care system. They were all redacted when I was making outcries for being sexually abused and beaten. So those were all redacted records, but everything that I said was in there. And then I was sending this blank pages, so I knew what was going on at that time. Is I've never written a book, but I have it. I've tried, but the pain is still there. So until I can write the story, as it was pointed out, that says, and this is what you do next. This is the person that I am. And have people stop walking up to me and I say, I grew up in the foster care system, and they start to cry. Because they know that system is broken. It has been, it will always be. And so I tell them, don't cry, be happy. Because I could be a whole different person. So choose happiness like me. And besides that, I was told that if you don't hold in anger, you don't wrinkle. And so
That's good.
make me wrinkle.
Okay. That's good.
Love it. So when I got my Medicare card at 65, I said to myself, thank you, Jesus, for no wrinkles.
Okay.
That was amazing. Dropped a lot of jewels up here, and I want to say the one I'm holding on to most is not the anti-wrinkle one. Though I will remember that, because I'm Hungarian and I hold a grudge like no one else. But you said there's a way around everything. I don't know that you meant to drop that jewel. It was just a subtle note, but look at all that has been accomplished by the people who've been receiving these awards up here.
Yeah.
And on that note, we are bringing up our next presenter, who has been through the fire, reinvented herself, shared her vulnerability, and is here to present an award, which I should probably tell you what the award is. She is the author and the Crescent City series and the host of BYOB Dead Folks podcast. She's presenting the Inspirational Women in Literature Award, Nola Nash.
Like so many of you, getting to know the people in this room has been such a blessing this weekend. And getting to read about all of the people who are going to be here was such fun. And when I got to read about Eliza Mann, I felt that this is somebody who was the same as me growing up. Getting my hands on that first romance novel, that historical fiction, Georgette Heyer was my girl. I mean, we type and cheesecake. Eliza's fan of cheesecake. Oh my gosh, I love this woman. I cannot wait to meet her. And I am so excited that I get to present an award to someone who is just after my own heart while she is capturing the hearts of so many, writing romances with humor. Because y'all, love can be funny.
Yes.
It can be very funny. I don't know about y'all, but I've done some dumb stuff on it. It's hilarious. If somebody was sitting over there, well, I was sitting over there writing my story, y'all, it would be bad. It's not been a successful story, but a funny one. But I am so excited to get to present this award to Eliza Mann. I'm gonna.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know what I'm doing up here. My God, I've watched you for years, and you guys are so incredible. And I do the Mac thing all the time. So, but I have been inspired by everyone in this room. So thank you for that, and thank you to Jay for inviting me here. Like you said, I've always written and I've always read, and I've always been creative. I was born in Georgia, but not this fantastic metropolis you see. I was born in the sticks. I lived in Elberton, Georgia, which is about 2.5 hours down the road. And all I had when I was born was my creativity, my humor, and my imagination. We were very poor. We moved to Detroit. My father is a recovering alcoholic. And what do they say about cycles? We repeat that, right? So I married an alcoholic, and I kind of went away from reading. I kind of went away from joy and happiness for a very long time. And the last thing he said to me that made me pack my bags and leave. You would think the abuse would make you pack your bags and leave, the mental abuse, but it didn't for some reason. I don't know why, but he said to me one morning, I've woken up and my son was 6 months, and he said, you know what, because he was late for work, he said, you know what, you are better off dead. And that day I called my girlfriends and I told them, come and get me because I'm not right. I left with my kids and some clothes for them. And then I used every dime I had to move into a row house in Detroit. It's literally in an alley. It was the happiest moment of my life because I was away from him, away from my monster. And I remember I spent everything. My mom was keeping my son, who was very small, and my daughter, who was my day one, I had like $2 and I went to Wendy's and I got a hamburger and some fries. And I'm sorry. I got a hamburger and some fries and I gave it to her and I was like in the kitchen busy with myself. So I didn't have to like, and she came in with like half a hamburger and she gave it to me. And she was like, Ma, it's always gonna be all right. And so from there, I went to the grocery store one day and I had always read that I had never seen me on the cover. I went in and Miss Beverly Jenkins, who's like my mentor, she had written a book and it's this gorgeous Black woman in this big ass gown. Historical romance. She wasn't a slave. She wasn't a, and I said, oh my God, they're writing books for me. And, it was a big deal because African American romance used to be over with, literature, like, in the African American corner. So it was a big deal to see it right there in Kroger. So I started reading again, and then as I was reading, those stories that I made to satiate me were coming back into my mind, and I said, I'm gonna write a romance. And all these years later, I still get that kind of joy. And romance reminds me that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have it all together because you too can have a happily ever after. And thank you all for listening to my story. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for that. You reminded me of, I'm from Las Vegas. We usually get all the movies, but there was this one movie that I really wanted to see that was just making the route in independent theaters. So I traveled all the way to LA to see this movie. And when I was there was this giant display of a movie with Gugu and Bhandara in this beautiful gown. And she was playing Belle, Dido Bell.
Yeah.
And I just became a little girl. I was stuck in the lobby, just staring at her. Just this is made for me. Like this was made specifically for me to see myself like that. So, okay, I went there to see another movie, but that's how I found out about this movie. I had already heard about Duffel, but hadn't seen her on the screen. You know, it's one of those we don't talk about Black people being, ladies. Like we don't do that. So I want to thank you for continuing that, letting us see ourselves on these covers, and that these stories are us too. So thank you for that. And I believe David's next, but oh, there you are. Yes, you are next. She is the co-founder of these awards and the 2019 Poet of the Year, presenting for Inspirational Supporter.
Right. Again, sorry. Rita deserves like this huge, wonderful speech, and she's probably not gonna get it from me, but this woman is amazing. She has fought to be in broadcast for a very long time. She's written so many pieces on people that wouldn't probably ever got a chance if she hadn't done it. So with no further ado, Rita Rich.
Like all of you, I'm wondering what the hell am I doing? I was on the phone like a week, 4 days ago, and I'm like, they're giving me this award for being inspirational. And I got on the phone with my girlfriends, and they said, yes. and one of them kept ticking off why I was inspirational. I'm a journalist, so I'm going to quote other people's works. I worked in radio for a few years and then got recruited to do marketing and media relations. And I had 3 jobs working with 3 bosses, and I quit the last boss because he was dishonest, he was a schmuck, and I opened up my own little firm. And Rita Rich Media Services came in, but I love radio. And I should have stayed with it, but I couldn't make a decent buck doing what I wanted to do in media. And most journalists don't. They look great. And their wardrobe is on trade, barter. They look fabulous, and they're so smart because we know a little bit about everything. Well, master of none is what my second real bitchy boss in media relations said. You're a master at nothing. And that kind of sucked. So I reinvented myself as Rita Rich Media Services, and then I took on a business partner years later into that, when I got into producing podcasts, and Flatlands Avenue Productions, representing Brooklyn, New York. I was born in Canarsie, and my business partner lived in East New York, which is now very famous because Jim Smith's playing Todd Cobb, and he grew up in East New York, and Flatlands Avenue connected our 2 neighborhoods. And podcasting was good, but it's hard to make a buck. And then I couldn't really force myself on people because my husband became ill and more ill and more ill. He was a paraplegic ever since he was a boy, and 12 years older than myself. I fell in love with him anyway. It's how I wound up in Washington, D.C. and in Maryland, because remember when you can go to a singles event? Oh, remember those? And I'm Jewish. So we answer to many names. You know, the name in English that you have, your Hebrew name or your Yiddish name, and any nickname, which I will never divulge. My dad's nickname for me. I still get called that. He's almost 93. So, long story short, he died, and about a year after my husband's death, I just had to do my first love again. They needed somebody to be a news director, and I took training. I went to Buffalo State College, journalism, broadcasting, speech communications, and started working in Annapolis as a news director for a station there, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and commuting to Annapolis to be on the radio. I loved it. Annapolis was my second home. It was great. And when I lost that job, because the station, which is owned by Pat Sajak, who had a home and still does in Anne Arundel County, where Annapolis is, he sold it and wants to sell the land. make a nice bundle for his kids and eventual grandkids. I don't blame him. But he was the one supporting me. Nobody wants to buy or support or hire real journalists. And I worked with a pack of part-timers, and I inspired them to find stories. They only wanted them to read what was written for them. And I created journalists, I guess, because we won some regional Associated Press awards for journalism. And I like it. I like the fact that we did that. Now I'm back to a place where I worked before PR on a freelance basis, part-time, because the guy needed me. He's dying, my old talk show husband, so to speak. And they're going through transition. So I produced talk shows. Unfortunately, talk shows are like what you're writing about, very divisive. I cry about it too. But yeah, I have to pay my taxes and I have to pay my homeowner's insurance. But what I'm seeing here, besides me being able to blab on and on and on, is that we all need to reinvent ourselves sometimes. But it doesn't mean that what's deep in our heart and what's up here is that we lose. We never. I have a cousin, I call her a second cousin. My great grandmother took in an orphan who the boy went to the home, the foster home in the Bronx. The little girl, she couldn't think about that going. So she took in this little girl who was her niece. My great grandmother's sister died. So we all have these roots, right? We're all interconnected, the same crap, no matter what we look like now. We all have that same crap going on inside. So my second cousin said to me, you are a humanist. You know? And yeah, I always liked service. When I had my own job and I had some time, I learned everything I could as a Red Cross volunteer, a community emergency response team. And because that's service, journalism is a public service, and by golly, you gotta pay for it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't just keep complaining about the firewalls because it's a service. And if you shut down the people who are willing to talk up for you and tell your stories, you're gonna let the evildoers win. So don't do that, and keep moving forward, because we have no choice but to move forward.
Absolutely.
And this room is full of people I know I could collaborate with.
Yes.
So let's keep moving the world forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's the picture.
Hold on, you gotta put it up.
The fling picture.
Did they need that?
Thank you very much. You guys are wonderful. I don't know how you concoct this, and you find really neat people to make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In addition to appreciating your alliterative name, you have reminded us of a very important point, which is passion does not pay the bills. I was like Deborah and Echo and Nola, sorry, I wanted to say Nash. Nola, please stand and just remind us of the charities that you're here representing so that people can make sure to make their donations.
I guess I'll go first. I'm here for Church Girl CEO Foundation.
Echo. And Nola.
Not any charity in particular, but anytime that you see women needing assistance coming out of the shelters.
Awesome.
Shelters are wonderful.
Yeah.
But there are things that have to happen to them.
Absolutely.
Anytime you can get clothes and clothes.
Okay.
Women to
Read this up. Hello.
local charity that you talked about.
Please. I got a problem. I have a problem. I'm addicted to shopping. I have a problem. I need to admit. Addicted to shopping.
Oh, you couple more of charity, Gigi?
I'll do my charity. It's called the Right to Me Foundation.
I love it.
And what we do is we provide right to passage events for children in the foster care system. And our signature event is called Comrade, where we give them everything they need to go to prom, including shoes and dresses. So if you have children use shoes and dresses, you know, the shoes are probably really cute with them. And then out to take those donations and we give them to the girls in a one-day event. And they get to keep everything that we give them. And we have salon,
She take the
hair,
clothes and shoes and
everything
give to the
they need
girls.
make it so that the foster
She
parents
take
can-
clothes and shoes to give to foster kids. Gigi.
It's WRITER. TO. And the reason was
We'll
at the
find out.
beginning, I gave them notebooks to write their stories. I followed them up, so I went. And then I told them that as you write more, your story will get better. Thank you.
We have one last presenter in award here. So the presenter is Deborah Franklin.
Okay, I won't act like the back to preacher and tell you that